Tantalus Entertainment presents the Killer Score Podcast.
And welcome to the second episode of the Killer Score Podcast. For those of you just joining us, welcome to your first episode. And in this episode, we will be talking about the cult classic animated film Rock and Rule. A situation where we're going to have one of those fun episodes where only one person has seen it, which is our pal Richie over here.
Hello, once again, Richard Eckert here of Rich Reviews, and I am very excited for this one because this is one, as my friend Dalton said, where I am the sole member of the hosts to have seen this. I'm super jazzed about this because Rock and Roll has gotten a lot of love in recent years from a cult following, and even saw a couple of DVD and Blu-ray releases. And, in fact, so vehement is its following that it is free to watch on YouTube via Retro Review. You should check that channel out. It has a lot of cool 80s cartoons and stuff released from America and Canada from that time period, and it's a really fun channel to see for those who are nostalgic for 80s cartoons.
Huh. Alright, yeah. So, going over our usual stuff again, I am Dalton Morrison. I have a degree in journalism, and I am the host, one of the hosts of our podcast here, Killer Score, bringing you all of the classic scores and cinematography and Whoa, wrong word again. I messed that one up. I meant to say composers of classic films. I have a Twitter you can follow me at on Sick Jacket Man, YouTube channel of the same name, videos coming soon, and I will pass it off to the lovely Erin Murray.
Hi, I'm Erin Murray. I am from witchandcrafts.com. It's an online crafting website. We will be putting out a fall collection soon, so stay tuned for that. We do sewing, crochet, and bath and body products, and just witchy items in general. This is a movie I am not very familiar with, so Richie, take it away.
Yes, once again, Richard Eckert of Rich Reviews here. Also part-time YouTube voice actor for things like Mr. Rogues' Arkham Patient Sessions and many other projects coming soon. And this is a movie that is very near and dear to me because my dear friend who I'd like to give a shout out to, fellow VA Chris Conti, who you may recognize as the Riddler from the aforementioned Arkham Patient Sessions, is also a big fan of this movie and has introduced me to it a while back, and I love this film to death for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cult classic stuff I'm aware of, and I always love cult classic cartoons and animation in general. I'm still, fighting for, one day, hoping for a release for, Megas XLR. Love that show. I would love if they ever did anything with it, officially. And, it's a great time to be into cult classics in general, which is part of what we want to exhibit on this channel, because there's a lot of avenues now, whether it be through some not so illicit methods, which I totally don't condone, like torrents. There's a bunch of great websites for that. You totally shouldn't do that, but there's a bunch of great websites for that kind of stuff.
We are good influences.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we're even in the age when cult classic cartoons are getting reboots or follow-ups and official releases. I mean, just earlier this year, for example, we heard that they were going to be doing a sequel series to Clone High, of course.
Oh yeah,
yep.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, which of course, and that show even had its own influences, bleed off, the fact that the writers of it wrote the excellent Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, Beavis and Butthead's making a comeback, which I was always confused that the comeback they already tried to do never took off. I honestly thought the resurrected Beavis and Butthead they did 10 years ago was actually really good.
Yeah. I never got why it just sort of fizzled out. It's sad, really.
Yeah, it's weird because it was literally just taking Beavis and Butthead and updating it for the 2010s, and it actually worked. Like, they even had them still do the music video segments, except it was, like, modern music and stuff like that. Like, they did the, Aaron, you would love this, they did the video for MGMT Kids.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, what's the deal with this movie, Richie? You haven't exactly told us much about it.
Oh, yes. Well, this is a production effort by the renowned animation company Nelvana, and though the name itself may not ring a bell initially, some of the stuff that it has to its name might. For instance, the Care Bears,
Yep.
numerous holiday specials and animated TV specials, like that cute little short that they did that was Romeo and Juliet but with robots.
Huh. Yeah, I'm not familiar with
Yeah,
that
I'm
one.
not familiar with that one either.
Oh, it's really cute. And one such special that will remain near and dear to everyone's hearts, an unadulterated classic of holiday specials, the animated segments of the Star Wars holiday special.
Yes!
Oh my
Yes! The people who gave us Boba Fett.
Yep.
Yeah.
The people who gave us Keith Richards Han Solo. Why did Han Solo look like Keith Richards?
But
Who looked at Harrison Ford and was like, you know who he looks like? Keith Richards.
But in all seriousness, possibly the most relevant special to this particular subject was one Halloween special they did called The Devil and Daniel Mouse.
I've heard of that, actually.
May I have heard of it?
Yes. Directly inspired by The Devil and Daniel Mouse, about a bunch of mice singing folk music and the titular character being involved in a all too classic contract with the devil himself as a record producer.
Oh, is it based off that old movie, The Devil and Daniel Webster, I believe it is
Yes,
called?
it is.
Oh, yeah. That's a classic.
It had a lot of good folk music from the time. Well, this special did.
Oh,
is
yeah.
what I'm saying. And that special was so successful for Nelvana at the time that they decided to develop a new IP, a new children's movie around that, called Drats. The basic premise remained the same, about mutant mice, dogs, and cats in a post-apocalyptic setting, but eventual creative directions and shifting music tastes at the time led to it becoming a more adult movie.
Were any of these mutated creatures, were any of them teenagers and ninjas? Potentially turtles as well?
Anyway, moving on. Some of them are teenagers.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. No turtles?
But moving on. I apologize, Dalton, but
Alright.
we are escaping the point. This movie had a lot of pedigree behind it, namely, numerous musical contributions by some of the most popular musicians and bands of the time,
Okay.
including, reading from the list, Iggy Pop, Lou Reed,
Love them.
Cheap
Oh,
Trick,
wow.
Love them.
Oh.
Debbie Harry of Blondie,
Love
and
it.
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Oh.
All great. All great.
You
And
have my attention.
Oh, yes. I assume this is going to be the main appeal here, because as much as I enjoy this movie, there are a lot of production problems that it faced upon its American release that sadly do bleed into the narrative.
This all ties back into you bringing up the Star Wars Christmas special again.
Yes, it does.
Right? I'm not wrong.
I was only
I'm not
expecting.
wrong.
I was only expecting one reminder of that special. Let's call it.
Never
but-
forget, folks, they're bringing it back. That's why this is extra relevant, because we're getting another Star Wars Christmas special.
Rock and roll was plagued by a lot of production and release troubles that
Doesn't sound familiar.
bring very relevantly, as my very mature co-host has brought up.
I
It
love to
was-
get a rise out of you.
It's entertaining.
It is. It is. Look at his
Quite.
face right now. I
This
almost
is-
wish we had a camera.
Yeah, this is
I
a
can
real.
set it up.
This is a real treat. This is a real treat for our audio listeners, huh?
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
Absolutely.
MGM saw to its release via its United Artists subsidiary, and they were very unkind to this movie. They did not like it. To the point.
Did they? And they probably didn't even put the effort in to redraw the MGM lion as like a anthropomorphic hot lion, did they?
I wish.
Right?
I wish.
Put in the effort, you guys. You're making a movie that's like a furry post-apocalypse, and you're not going to take the movie studio that's logo is a lion and draw a sexy lion man? Come on.
Oh, they did more than just that. They added some very questionable post-production elements that we will discuss once we are done seeing the movie proper, and they even recasted the arguable protagonist Omar
What?
with American Graffiti's Paul Lamont, who even back then was just sort of a rising star at the time.
I like Paul Lamont, but I don't know how I feel about that.
I have a feeling you'll be vindicated in that skepticism later.
Okay.
But
Oh God.
But yeah, this is a fun movie that does suffer from kind of a rushed story, but does have some great post-apocalyptic cyberpunk story elements.
Okay.
A
okay.
nice kind of rock opera plot,
All
and
right.
a villain sung by Iggy Pop and Lou Reed.
All right.
Oh, okay.
And for those of you who are voice acting nerds, his speaking voice is done by the father of Cree Summer, the
Oh.
esteemed Canadian theater actor Don Franks.
Oh, Don Franks?
Yes.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay. So,
there's a lot to enjoy in this movie, despite it being very clearly cut short in a lot of ways.
so should we get started?
Yes, we shall. We will see you in a couple hours on our end.
Yeah, but
In a
for
couple
you,
seconds on ours.
it'll be like an instant. Insert the Wayne's World transition right here. Do-do-do, 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 do-do-do. I can only do this for so long. Do-do-do, do-do-do, do-do. And we're
And-
back. Sorry.
And we're back.
Yeah.
Yes. So that was for me about the third time seeing rock and roll. As with before, it is flawed, but I like way too much of the music and way too much of the aesthetic to write it completely off. Rest assured, we are going to be going down our list of hosts and talking about this movie's production and its issues, but let us go down and make good on that promise. Aaron, what did you think?
I enjoyed the music. The ADR, in my opinion, was not that great, to be honest.
No.
I was willing to forgive it because I thought it was something wrong with my laptop we were watching it on. I'm not sure if it was the laptop, the connection, or whatever, but the ADR was not great.
It was atrocious.
Yeah.
To put it lightly.
To put
Yeah.
the biggest thing I got from the movie is the music, because as we mentioned, there's like Debbie Harry, Iggy Pop, there's Wind and Fire song, there's Lou Reed. But the movie, how do I put it?
I think Dalton can probably segue into this, and Aaron can elaborate.
They could have done more with it if they had done more pacing.
Yeah.
Because it seemed to be like one thing after another, after another, after another.
It doesn't give you time to breathe.
It doesn't, no.
Alright. And with that interim, Dalton Morrison, please take the stage.
So here's my hot take. If you want an 80s animated film that has a cult following and a good soundtrack, you're really good off with watching basically any Hasbro animated feature over this, because they have better pacing and character development. I'm not even joking. I would prefer if we had watched the My Little Pony movie from 1986.
Or Transformers.
Yes, because they both have
I had the
phenomenal
Cadbury's movie on
soundtracks.
VHS.
Yeah.
And plus, the My Little Pony movie has Danny DeVito as a villain.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
It does.
Um,
And has better character development.
it does, which we will get to.
I was willing to
yes.
give was willing to give the movie the benefit of the doubt for several reasons, mostly because of production issues. But I didn't find the characters that likable.
No.
I mean, Angel was kind of alright.
But she's so bland. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Omar's just a dick.
Oh yeah, let's talk about Omar, because the one thing I like this movie, and I like it enough that I put it on here because Dalton pitched me the concept. I'm like, yeah, there's enough good in this to constitute it. But the one thing that always kept me from saying, hey, why didn't we watch this first? And then I watch Omar, his scenes pop up, and I'm like, oh, now I remember. And given that a lot of this movie consisted of Dalton's priceless facial reactions to Omar, let's let him have the floor on our charming leading man, who is our protagonist in the same way that, like, Aragorn was in Lord of the Rings. So yeah. Dalton, let's talk about Omar and his relationship with the characters.
First off, you do not dare compare Omar to Aragorn, son of Arathorn, one true heir to the throne of Gondor.
It was a narrative.
All right.
It was a narrative thing.
All right.
It was a narrative.
Don't you dare
No.
compare. Don't compare Omar to Strider.
Keep going.
Oh man.
This is content.
Now I
This
just
is-
want to watch Lord of the Rings, you asshole.
My,
And I don't own any copies of Lord of the Rings.
my brother does. Don't worry.
Okay, because I have the books, but
But Omar, let's talk about Omar.
an aside really quick. Have either of you read the Lord of the Rings books?
I haven't read Lord of the Rings books. I read
Not
The
all the
Hobbit
way.
when I was like in elementary school because my dad decided he was going to teach me how to read by using The Hobbit.
The movies are.
That was hard.
I like the books, but the movies are a lot better because they cut out shit that like really has no business being in there. Even if I do love it, like this movie is if Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movie kept in Tom Bombadil.
Yeah.
It-
I would say Tom Bombadil.
It's like
Yeah.
if they kept in Tom Bombadil.
Well, yeah, Omar. We gotta get to Omar. He's your favorite.
Omar, oh yeah, my favorite character. It played expertly in this movie, by the way. Such good acting. Oh my god, just every delivery was so good. I
His
can't.
voice never breaks an
No.
octave, man.
No, it totally sounds like a 20-year-old guy. You know, definitely doesn't sound like a guy who has no business playing that character.
MGM, man. They're like, Paula Matt's kind of big. Let's shove him in here.
You know who else was kind of big in 1982? Harold Ramis. Maybe Harold Ramis should have played him.
I was gonna say, what if you got Joe Pesci to
Yeah,
was a teenager?
Joe Pesci would have been better, honestly.
Yeah,
He would have.
Why don't we get what's his face?
Ray
From
Liotta.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Oh, Rick Moranis.
Yeah, let's get Rick Moranis. He'll be perfect for the
So-
part. Actually, this movie would be infinitely more enjoyable if Rick Moranis was trying to play.
I mean, it is
Android.
Canadian.
That's
It's
fair.
Canadian.
That's fair.
But yeah. Omar. He is the arguable protagonist of the movie. I say arguable because the comic relief characters do a lot more.
than Omar does.
So, I actually forgot the plot synopsis earlier.
If only there was a handy tool to help us figure out what the plot of this movie was.
Dalton,
If only there was a handy tool.
for those of you listening, Dalton may be missing for a few days after
This is my revenge on you.
Clearly.
This
Clearly.
is my revenge on you for hyping up this movie so much. Guys, he promised me the world with this movie with the slightest things of like, oh, it's got a few issues. It had more than a few issues, Richie.
We're getting into that, namely Omar. Very quick plot synopsis to start this off. I had alluded to it earlier. It is a post-apocalyptic science fantasy movie in which the characters are, bluntly put, furries. They're mutated animals.
And I have no problem with any of that.
And The protagonists consist of a band of musicians led by Angel, whose vocals are done by Debbie Harry in all the musical scenes, and you have Omar, the male lead, sung actually really well by Robin Zander, voiced terribly by Paul LeMat in this hack job.
Yeah.
And Omar is kind of the worst. He's kind of like, if you took... Dalton, what was it you said in the midst of viewing? Oh, it was Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, it's like if Scott Pilgrim, without any of the awareness and nobody constantly calling out Scott. Because, like, I hear a lot of people have this dumb hot take about how Scott Pilgrim is bad because, like, Scott is bad. And I'm like, but that's kind of the point? Did you pay attention? In both the comic and the film, people constantly call out Scott and say, hey, Scott, you're kind of a shit.
Omar doesn't get that until the very end.
No, and it's insufferable. And not only that, but this film doesn't do a good job of setting itself up because, one, you have the text scroll that treats the viewers like idiots.
And the narration over the text scroll.
Keep in mind,
I compared it to, for anyone who's seen it, Highlander. It's
yes.
like the opening to Highlander, where they have Sean Connery explain what immortals are. Before our very first scene is a sword fight between two immortals. And then later in the movie, Sean Connery explains to us what immortals are.
Admittedly, it's worse here because Mock, the villain.
It literally happens the second after the text.
The villain talks with his henchmen about summoning a devil and kidnapping Angel to be used as the voice to summon the devil so he can destroy the world and immortalize himself. So, that is one huge thing I've got against this movie, is its pacing. It doesn't really take a break, and I actually would like to unironically apologize to my co-hosts for not segueing into that, but there is a lot more to deconstruct here. We will end on good notes, though.
I understand that this movie was, like, a passion project for people. I understand it wasn't done by an animation studio that was, like, super, super big and didn't have the biggest budget. But at the same time, when I look at other similar budget projects of the era, like the Hasbro stuff, everyone knows Hasbro's a big multi-million-dollar company nowadays. But they didn't put a lot of money into the production of their films back then. They really didn't. And when you compare this to another comparable film of the time that was heavily based around its music soundtrack, that heavily was of its time and used popular artists, there's the Transformers movie. Which I would argue is a much better film. Also,
structurally, yes.
Yes, absolutely. It has a much better hero protagonist, too. Rodimus is much more compelling and interesting.
And actually voiced by a celebrity who sounded like he gave a crap.
Yeah. Also, that movie had Weird Al in it. That movie had a Weird Al song in it.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Literally, if you put a Weird Al song in a movie, it just, like, gives it one extra point.
Yeah.
Just
makes it better.
By default.
Which...
You could put Weird Al in the ending credits of a Marvel movie, and it would still make it better.
Yes, you could put Weird Al in a Darren Aronofsky movie, and it would make it better.
Yeah. But yeah,
Imagine
while we're
Black
on the
Swan.
subject of music, though, I feel like it'd be mean to say that the music isn't a legitimate high point of this movie.
It is the high point of this movie.
It is,
but I feel like this movie probably did end up influencing some people. But I think the biggest comparison I can make it to that I mentioned while we were watching the film, and you guys both agreed with me, I believe that it was a fair contention. I said this is just an inferior version of Interstellar 5500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Admittedly.
Because that movie has a solid through line, a great plot that's easy to follow, and it doesn't treat its audience like idiots.
And the characters don't really talk.
Yeah, so you don't really have to worry about that. Also, this movie didn't have a guitar-shaped spaceship, so...
It had a turntable spaceship.
Yeah. Can we talk about Mock, the villain?
Yes, because
Yes.
that's another thing I think constitutes a high point to an extent.
To an extent, Mock is like, he's basically like some big kind of like record executive villain.
Well,
Rockstar.
Rockstar.
Yeah.
His whole deal is that he wants to summon this demon into this world so he can destroy it and prevent people from forgetting it.
I'm convinced they wanted him to be voiced by Tim Curry.
Just because of
really
his
good at Tim
animation.
Curry.
The way he was animated, the way Tim Curry walks and talks.
And the way his face moves.
Yeah, and the way he contorts his face. And there's the whole big mock song where a good portion of it is just his lips moving.
The red,
Which is very Rocky
bright
Horror Picture
red
the
Show.
Rocky
lips.
Horror
Very
lips.
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Which,
But what I was-
hint, will be a potential future episode.
Wink.
Wink. Maybe the next, I don't know, 2 episodes away.
But my issue with Mock here is that he seems like if you took like generic Disney villain and generic Bond villain and just threw it together.
Because
Because he's like, I will tell you everything. And it's like, no,
He
Shut
was.
up.
You know what? You know what he looked like? He looked like if they made a thin Radigan and made Radigan suck.
yeah.
it's music, though. It's so
I mean,
good.
the music
The
is
music's fine, but like I feel like people use the music of this movie as an excuse for the fact that the actual film itself is utterly atrocious. Even there's issues with the animation, I would say. The backgrounds I have no problem with. All of the backgrounds are fantastic, but
Yeah.
character animations are incredibly stilted
Yeah.
in that very 80s
Yeah.
Kind of way.
And also, about 3/4 of the way through the movie, I was like, "What if Angel is a cat? Why does she look like that?" And then Richie was like, "She's a
She's
dog."
a dog.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, this is."
She's like a cocker spaniel because she has like the
She has the
hairy,
furry
floppy
ears.
ears.
Floppy
Also,
ears.
the movie lies to you in the opening when it says the mutants of this world are cats, dogs, and rats.
And then
And
we
you
see a
see
pig.
non-cats, dogs, and rats mutated animals. You see a mutated, like, boar. Or a
Yeah.
warthog.
And then
'cause
you also
they have
see
tusks.
normal dogs and cats just like wandering around, just like
Yeah.
normal everyday dogs and cats, and we're like, wait, how did that not work?
Unironically, when it comes to advanced mutant animals that, like, basically rose up from, like, the same way that primates did from man, Red Dwarf did it better. And if you're not if you're not British, go check out Red Dwarf. It's
a good show.
It's really good.
It's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Red Dwarf is great.
If you're a sucker for the all too rare infusion of sci-fi and comedy together,
Mhm.
done in a really fun like sitcom format, you'll love Red Dwarf. It's like Star Trek meets Faulty Towers almost.
Kind of
It's
has
really
like
good.
And
a
if you don't know what Faulty Towers is,
kind of has like a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy
yeah,
type.
that's the
Yeah.
best comparison. It's very Hitchhikers, but it's also its own thing.
yeah.
And the reason I brought it up is specifically one of the protagonists of the show is called Cat, literally just Cat, and he is descended from Lister, the protagonist's original cat from millions of years ago, because Lister basically gets Philip J. Fried into the future, and he finds out that his cat essentially made a huge den of offspring, and over the years they essentially developed into a human-like culture, except their culture was based around the teachings of what Lister used to tell his cat, and they made like a whole religion around it.
Yeah.
And Cat is great because he's basically like if James Brown was an anthropomorphic cat person in a zoot suit. It's great. It really is great.
And that is more Red Dwarf for me to check out.
Yes.
But here's the thing. I feel like Mock is the type of villain you both wanted to like but couldn't because
Yeah.
the problem with
I
him,
really wanted to like him.
the problem with him is that he is not good at planning.
Or interesting, really.
I
Like,
agree to disagree with you on that.
and he's just such an idiot. Like, it's established he has, like, these vast magical powers, but we only ever see him use them for essentially parlor tricks.
And then even at the end, he is like, magic! And we're like, what?
Yeah, at one point, he dismisses the idea that magic could be used to stop him, and I'm just like, what?
I think that, though, could be chalked up to the loose argument that he's a narcissist who doesn't think that it could be in anyone else's hands.
Except he literally says magic in, like an incredulous tone, like, magic? What? Don't be talking these fairy tales to me.
All I can do is phase through walls and
Disappear and fly.
create elaborate illusions.
And then there's also electric drug ball.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, before Dalton goes insane from the bad characters and stuff, I think it'd be, like, prudent of me to...
I have the dad input on this movie, which is, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
Also mad. I mean,
yeah,
a little
like,
mad.
A little bit.
Like, there are things that I think are worth seeing this movie for. Namely, the animation in the backgrounds, like, say what you want about the facial animations, but when the movie has to be timed to music, it does pretty well.
I disagree. Like, a lot of the syncing of the lips is off on those scenes, too.
Yeah. But again, technology.
Yeah, I'm just saying, there's, like, comparable stuff to the time that does it better.
Like,
and I just feel like this movie was... I can understand why it has a cult following, but at the same time, I feel like it's one of those films that got judged a lot by critics, but at the same time, yeah, I totally get where they're coming from, because at a lot of times this movie is a slog to get through. It's short, but it feels long.
Mainly because the non-visual comedy is admittedly horrendous.
It's so
Yeah,
bad.
Like,
it's bad.
There's a scene that...
The voice acting is so bad, too.
Minus Cindy, Angel, and Mock.
Arguably. I mean, like I said, I don't think me and Aaron like Angel as much as you do. She feels very I'm the girl character.
Moral center.
She
Yeah.
feels very Smurfette to me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we needed a girl character. Look, there's the girl character.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
her personality?
Girl. Cindy, though, she was fun.
I like our audio spike there when we all say girl.
Girl. Man, that's... Aaron, I want to apologize. Before we continue, I just want to say...
Girl.
God damn it. I just want to apologize and say, for the record, Aaron has been doing a lot of the technological heavy lifting, and I want to say thank you for that.
You're
and
welcome.
we apologize for the issues with the first episode. Hopefully this one will sound a lot better because we set it up differently than the last time.
We have a pop filter, for one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And I have more of an idea as to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
like...
It's this film has its merits. I'm not going to just dismiss it completely. I'm just saying I feel like this movie gets oversold by its fans, and it feels like a lot of them try to downplay that the film has very, very glaring flaws.
I will not be one of those fans today. I will not be. I will admit that there are things that are not great, like a
The
majority of the cast, except for the three that I mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, there are some movies that people will defend until they're blue in the face, even though they're not great movies. Or, like, for example, like, my personal opinion about a movie that I love, even though I will fully admit it's not great, is Moulin Rouge.
Yeah.
It's not a great movie, but it's fun to watch.
Yeah, like I don't think I was ever bored with this.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of was, because a lot of scenes just kind of drag on, and you just want the plot to get going. Like, this movie has the weirdest pacing where it feels simultaneously way too breakneck and way too slow at the same
Kind of like
time.
coming down off a opium jag or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just feels like the writers and just the crew in general didn't know how to properly pace the
Pace
film.
it out.
Mm-hmm.
The movie's not even an hour and a half long, and you can tell that it needed some more time in the neck. Essentially,
Yeah, need more
It needed more
Work.
fat on it.
It did.
Work.
Time spent, for instance, not making Omar the spawn of Satan.
Yeah,
Like,
if they
he's-
had done more, like, background stuff with the characters,
Exactly.
it'd be more interesting.
Exactly. Like, all we
Like,
know
why
is
is Omar shit?
they are a musician. They want to be famous. But why, though?
But why, though?
You can't just say someone wants to be famous.
And, like,
Literally,
if they had done more, as I mentioned, in character backstory,
Yeah.
like, if they had done more things with, like, why is Omar such a shit? Or, like, why is this? Why is that?
Why is Angel so fame hungry?
Yeah.
like, literally, the only thing I have is, like, from inference and my own theories. People will tell you that I am kind of the resident overthinker. Like, I'm the
That's
analyst.
fair. That's fair.
My whole thing was, feel free to, like, not quote me on this at all, but my unspoken theory of this was, rock is the only thing giving people hope in this world, and it's like, oh, people who are purveyors of music will be in less shitty conditions, but that's just my theory. I'm not one of the writers, so I can't really say if
yeah,
that was
and
the
I mean,
thing.
like, the world looks like shit, but at the same time, it's like they don't do a good job of showing how the citizens of this world are in a plight either. Like, all we get shown is that it's like big and ugly looking.
And a police state.
And
Kind of?
to a degree.
To a degree. I mean, the characters, like, do some dumb, reckless crap early on in the movie, and they're like, oh, it's the cops, but the cops don't do anything.
Yeah.
But then later, when they do dumb, reckless stuff, then the cops do something? It's really weird. It feels like they just didn't set enough up. And there's just so much films that do better.
Yeah.
It really does feel like...
Part of me feels kind of bad because I set you up for disappointment,
Yeah.
but I'm at least hoping you see where the passion comes from.
I can.
Yeah.
The film is just one of those cases where I don't know who they were aiming for.
Yeah, because there's certain
It's
scenes...
tonally all over the place.
Yeah, because it's like, you can tell this is meant for adults, but then there's other scenes where it's like, what, like the scene where, with Uncle Mike?
Mikey.
Uncle Mikey. And with that scene, it was like, is this good or is this bad? I'm like, is this Care Bears or an adult movie?
Well, no, that one I'll defend because that's intentionally, like,
It's like an
on the
aesthetic.
nose. And it was
Yeah.
intentionally on the nose. Like, you could tell that, like, because literally it's like, is this good? And it's like, obviously good stuff. Where's this bad? Complete sociopathic behavior, you know?
One thing that I was happy to see was, like, there was one moment where the protagonists are kind of disposed of by being high off their butts.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
there's a moment where a lightning strike brings them all back to line, and Stretch, the dopey comic relief guy, goes,
The comic relief guy.
one of two. One of
There's
several,
two.
alright?
Oh, yeah, there's several.
Why is this movie felt like if
It was very dependent on the comic
this
book.
It
yes,
was.
this movie felt like if 90% of a Shakespeare cast was the comic relief characters.
Yeah, I meant that line he had, though, was like, hey, Omar, I
And
just
that-
had a
yeah.
dream. That you were a good person in it.
Yeah, that's funny. But
Yeah.
this movie is like if 90% of Hamlet's cast was the Gravekeepers.
Or if Macbeth were the porter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except the porter didn't overstay his welcome.
No. No.
Or if the nurse was the main character, Romeo and Juliet.
Nurse Montague, lover.
yeah.
A lot of
Another
spikes there.
A lot of spikes there, but that's things we're talking about.
Us
Anyway.
appreciating Shakespeare.
Let's get to the score and the musical numbers.
Underrated guy, that Shakespeare.
God damn it. So yeah, music. Figured we might as well go point by point with all the musical numbers and talk about the score. We'll start with the score, which, funny we brought up Care Bears earlier. I forgot to mention this was done by Patricia Cullen, a Canadian animation composer who did the first two Care Bears movies
Okay.
and several animated projects, most of which were from Nelvana, like Star Wars Droids.
Oh, droids.
Yeah.
You know, fun,
and the series, and the Care Bears series, the actual TV show.
you know, Droids is actually people mention Droids doesn't get talked about that much, but do you know that may actually be where the name Kylo Ren came from?
Really?
Yeah, there's a villain that has like the main villain of that. His name is very similar to Kylo Ren.
Huh.
Yeah.
She also composed Strawberry Shortcake and the Ewoks TV show and
This is who those I recognize.
and Mad Balls. If you don't know what Mad Balls is,
I have no idea
I have
what
no
Mad
idea.
Balls is.
good.
Okay, cool.
Okay,
Good.
that answers that question.
It's worse than the movies you compared it to. It is way worse. It was meant for a toy franchise, but the other ones had effort. Mad Balls has puns.
Oh.
Lots and lots of puns.
Lots and lots of puns.
And not the fun puns?
No.
No fun puns, okay.
Popsicle stick puns.
Oh,
Anyway,
no.
music. I think the composition work was pretty good. Like, for someone who just did kids media, I think she knew how to really put synths to the darker scenes. Like, she knew how to do transitionary scenes, and even though there are a few moments where the music has literal dun-dun-duns,
Mhm.
there was kind of like a grim futurism to the music that she composed for this movie. And I think that's impressive in a movie that has so many big names attached to it. Like, you'd probably expect her to be not as good as the talent they got for her, but she does good.
No, I actually said one thing I legitimately liked. What outside of like the band music was the incidental music was really good. The synth work is fantastic. I actually really like some of the incidental tracks connecting the scenes together. I just wish I got to hear more of them.
Over the sound mixing, which left a little to be desired.
Yeah, because there's many scenes where there was music playing and people talking, and you couldn't hear the people talking over the music.
Yeah.
What?
But back to the musical numbers. The stuff.
Like, have you guys ever seen Night at the Roxbury?
No, I
No.
haven't.
You guys haven't seen? Okay.
Hello, potential episode.
Okay, yeah, that movie's not great, but I do enjoy it. It's like a dumb,
Case in point.
It's a dumb '90s comedy based off of like a one-joke premise that they somehow stretched out into a film. But one of the really good jokes in the movie is they're trying to do a dialogue scene, but since it's set at a club, no one knows what anyone is saying.
I have a feeling that this movie isn't technically good, but I enjoy it, is going to be something of a recurring thing here.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Potentially.
Like like I said, if I want to do an episode because me and Richie have seen it, and neither of us will probably defend this. I might defend it a little more, but I think we could do the Power Rangers movie.
Yes.
Not Saban's Power Rangers, which I still can't believe that's the official title of
Copyright cops on our butts.
Power Rangers 27. He can't do anything anymore. He don't own it anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, for those that are aware, the official title of the last Power Rangers movie, Power Rangers 2017, that came out, is actually Saban's Power Rangers, which is very funny now that Hasbro owns
Not
the
convoluted
license.
at all.
No, not to be confused with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie.
Anyway.
Which is a potential episode, because great soundtrack. Excellent soundtrack.
Yeah.
Did you know there's a track that Alex Winter is involved with?
Yes.
Yeah. From, like, rock legend, you know.
Yeah.
So, back to the musical numbers, because I feel like we could go point by point since there's a short number of them.
Yeah.
And we can say what we thought of them. Like, let's first talk about Mock's songs, because I feel like those are what push Mock over the edge of being someone I like. Because Mock is a villain. He messes up completely a lot of times. But damn if they don't know how to make music for him. I think Iggy Pop's implementation here was a bit sparse considering this was not recorded for the movie, but Lou Reed stuff.
Oh,
Lou-
yeah.
I enjoyed Lou Reed stuff. I
Yeah.
honestly was shocked I didn't like the Iggy Pop number that much.
Because that was from his weird '80s spoken word album.
Which Lou Reed ended up doing too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he did. Wait, yeah, he did.
Yeah.
But
A lot.
yeah, Iggy Pop's song is called "Pain and Suffering," and it's him saying vaguely spooky stuff over guitars and random sound effects.
If you can hear him. Because once again, the ADR.
It's like that in the album too. I went ahead and
God.
listened to it in the original.
That's sad.
I cannot play it here because
Copyright.
Copyright.
box, yeah.
but it had that problem before, and I actually had to full blast my headphones.
Yeah, the Lou Reed stuff's fun. The Iggy
My name
Pop
is Mock.
stuff- Yeah, that's all right. I feel like it's a little on the nose for a villain song.
I mean, we're talking about a villainous rock star who calls himself a warlock and revels in it, so being on the nose isn't a problem for Mock, I don't think.
Mock is just Aku without any of the self-awareness or fun of Aku for me.
Yeah, I get that.
Like, if I want an evil warlord who rules over a despotic future with a cyberpunk aesthetic, who's a big ham, I'm gonna stick with Aku.
And that's a problem again. This movie is very much undercooked, even though I can appreciate a lot of what it puts down. Like, Lou Reed knows how to sound like a bad guy.
Yeah.
I think he does.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a shame that this movie was
He's
hacked
no Mako.
down.
He's no Mako. He's no late great Mako, but you know.
He isn't. But when My Name is Mock came out onto this scene and I'm watching it, I'm like, why did they cut this down? I've heard the full version. And once again,
Because they were stretched for time, Richie. They had to not meet that hour and a half mark.
It's an hour and 12 minutes.
which it's a shame too, because the full version has some more lyrics other than the chorus, and one of the best verses, it's like they end a verse on "History reveals, my friend, it reveals one thing. There's only one beginning and one end."
Yeah, that's a good line. Shame that it got cut.
They shouldn't have cut it.
All right.
Next on the list, I guess, of the musical numbers.
Yeah.
I like "Send Love Through." I like Debbie Harry's song.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
It's-
Yeah, I enjoyed Debbie Harry's song.
Good power ballad. Good semi sort of peace and love power ballad.
Yeah.
I just like Debbie Harry, so I liked it either way. So
Yeah.
They picked a good singer for that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And say what you want about Omar, but I think Robin Zander did a good job with.
You can't go wrong with Cheap Trick's music.
You
though.
can't. Born to Raise Hell is a fun, punkish little song.
Yeah.
About being, badass.
I'm glad they went with like a more aggressive Cheap Trick song though, because it would have felt really weird to see Omar singing something like "Surrender."
That's the thing. Cheap Trick's a versatile band.
They are.
They really are.
They can be kind of boy bandish, like kind of power poppy, but when they wanted to dial it up,
That's my favorite type of Cheap Trick song though, if I'm being honest. Like,
the power pop type.
oh
thing.
god, yeah, you can see that they totally ended up becoming like the big influence of like the big boy groups that would follow.
Yeah.
The really fun, cheesy stuff like Duran Duran and all that.
I think there's a place for hair metal Cheap Trick though, because
Fair.
when they wanted to dial it up, they could dial it up.
Late 70s, early 80s Cheap Trick is my favorite. You can't deny the greatness of stuff like I Want You to Want Me and
Surrender.
Dream
Surrender.
Police.
Dream
Yeah.
Police.
The
Mighty-
Dream Police.
Mighty Wings was good too. The
Oh,
song
yeah,
they did
yeah.
for Top Gun.
Oh yeah.
When we were when they were showing like musical guests in the opening credits of this movie, we were actually singing different songs by the musical guests while the credits came on.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That was fun.
If I if there's one thing I can leave, if there's one thing I can tell you guys, if it's one of the best-selling concert albums of all time is Cheap Trick Live at the Budokan. If you can find that, listen to that, it holds up. If you've ever been listening to a classic rock station and you hear "I Want You to Want Me," that's the live version from Live at the Budokan. And
the best version.
The best version.
Yeah.
Like, you just how into it that crowd of Japanese girls gets. Because, yes, for those unaware, Cheap Trick was really big in Japan.
A lot of hair metal bands were. Cheap Trick, Mr. Big. Oh, yeah, Powderfinger, I think, made it to Japan.
I think Heart was really big over there, too.
Yeah.
But
the Runaways were bigger over there than they ever were over here.
Japan's really kind to rock acts, is what we're learning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of which, getting back to the music,
maybe we should watch the Runaways movie for this.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I actually haven't seen it.
So. Oh, you haven't seen it? You guys haven't seen it?
Nope.
Really good. Dakota Fanning is really good in it as Sherry Curry.
Okay.
Yeah, I've only seen so much, so that.
I've seen a documentary on the Runaways, but I haven't actually watched the Runaways.
Do you guys want to see?
I watch Edge play.
Do you guys want to see Dakota Fanning and Kristen Stewart make out with each other?
Yes.
Okay, then we're gonna watch Runaways.
Man, again, this is such a letdown.
It's a very mature podcast.
This is a letdown for the audio listeners who didn't see
his face lit up, guys. It was beautiful. I guess what we can say is, let's go lesbians.
So, back to the music.
Rapid fire down the line. Everyone just say what you think your favorite song was from the movie so we can have a takeaway. I'll start. Favorite for me, Earth, Wind, Fire, Dance, Dance, Dance. Can't deny it.
I was going to say the same thing, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah.
Dance, Dance, Dance. And
wow, just down the line.
Down the line of the same song.
Although my runner-up is Born to Raise Hell.
Yeah, that's fair.
I love hair metal Cheap Trick. Clubbing seems probably the second best in the movie, other than the climax, by the way.
I think it's my favorite scene in the movie, because I feel like that scene, with like the minimal dialogue and just the overall aesthetic, felt to me what they wanted the movie to be.
Yes.
But it couldn't be.
Which is a shame, because go back and watch interviews with Maurice White of Earth, Wind, and Fire. You'll see that he was passionate about recording this.
Yeah.
He kind of likes that he was doing something really off-kilter.
I liked all the titties in that scene. I wish the movie had more titty in it. It was supposed to be an adult film, but it's barely adult.
Yeah, that is a huge problem, where it's... If there was one thing I'd say was...
Are they trying to go for PG-13 or R? We can't really tell.
Yeah. I think...
Sorry about that.
That was a clap.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that the reason why I'm forgiving for this movie is that its biggest problem is overambition. And I can be a bit... I think I'm more forgiving of movies that tried too hard, because...
Yeah.
How mean of a criticism is this movie tried too much?
That's fair.
Yeah.
I wanted to clarify, though. Dalton, I do get that this movie has flaws, and I'm not going to pretend that this is the second coming of Iggy Pop.
No.
But
it's just... I get where people are coming from. I don't know if I can personally recommend this film to people. I just think that it's undercooked, needed more time in the oven, and for all of its flaws, you can't excuse the fact that the movie's too short.
It is. And
for everything they try to set up some big, epic rock opera plot in less time than it takes to actually have a rock opera.
Imagine if this had, like, the Wall levels of screen time.
Yeah.
Give it an extra half hour. Yeah. If they gave it an extra half hour, I feel like they would have been able to do a lot more.
It would have been a lot better.
Then it would have been a better movie.
Yeah. But yeah, I do...
Now I just want to watch The Wall.
Or Quadrophenia.
Yeah.
Both great movies.
It'd be a good candidate if all of us
hadn't already seen The Wall.
Yeah.
Well, I actually haven't seen Quadrophenia's movie. I've listened to the album, but I haven't actually seen the movie.
I hear it's alright.
I've seen it. I like that movie. I just don't own a copy of it.
Isn't it hard to find?
Probably.
Yeah.
Much
Actually,
like
I think
this.
I saw it at Barnes & Noble once.
Oh, cool.
Much like this one, but we kind of drifted away from the animation, which I think deserves a bit more elaboration because, fun fact, Rock and Roll was one of the first animated films to make active use of computer-generated imagery.
I really wouldn't be surprised, as I was saying while watching, to find out that some of the people who worked on the 3D animation worked on Reboot. That would be the least surprising thing ever.
Funny enough, that is probably one of the elements of the movie that has aged the best.
Yeah, it's
It
nowhere.
has.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
good. It's nowhere near as bad as Reboot's animation.
Like, because they use it...
Uniboobs.
They use the computerized elements for concert effects and for
Trippy visuals.
And also
And-
doing like a computer kind of interface that Mock
Yeah.
talks to a lot.
yes, and when it does that, I think it's really good. It was mixed well, which again, I must say the lighting for this movie is really good.
Yeah, I really like the lighting grade. It's weird that this is the comparison I'm going to make. Have you guys ever seen any of the animation stills for the sadly canceled Don Bluth Cats adaptation?
Yes.
Yeah,
The lighting reminds me a lot of the look of like that canceled Don Bluth Cats animation.
exactly.
That would have been a better movie than the cats that we got.
Yes.
Yes.
A much better movie.
Yes.
A much better movie.
But, you know,
It would have been entertaining in a different way.
Yes.
Because Cats 2019, don't make the mistake, folks. It is legitimately entertaining in sort of the way where it's like I looked into the abyss and the abyss looked back kind of way.
Yeah, we
yes.
saw that movie, and the first thing Dalton said was, I feel like I looked into the eyes of a dying god and laughed at it.
Yeah, that is the ultimate quote that you could take away from it.
Channeled expertly in your article that you wrote for Rich Reviews, by the way.
Ah, good shilling there, buddy. Love it.
A lot of
Another
claps
clap.
in this episode.
But
There was 2.
4.
Really?
Yeah, because I clapped twice at the beginning.
Oh.
yeah, but yeah, this movie, I just can't hate it. It's like the little kid who has a big volcano science project set up, and it's well presented, and it's a good-looking volcano
But then it explodes.
in his face.
Did you guys ever have to do science projects as kids?
We never did the volcano because we didn't have science fairs
I
until
did.
8th grade.
I did like potato batteries.
I did one of those experiments where you try to see if like people's like perception of colors changes their opinion on things.
Yeah.
What I did was I bought Sprite. It was just Sprite, and I got 3 different cups, but I put food dye in each of them. And it's like, which one of these did you like best? And you could tell that people's opinions were entirely based off the color, because everything they picked was like, and I even asked them beforehand, what's your favorite color? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, the one they picked happened to be their favorite color. It was one of those things where it's like, you just drank the same thing 3 times. Yeah. I did that because it was lazy and easy, and I didn't feel like putting a lot of effort in my experiment. And B, I got to drink Sprite, and I liked Sprite a lot at the time.
But yeah, like, if there's anything to take away from this movie, it's that I do think that it deserves a look, if only
Yes.
for the animation showcase and
Mhm.
the musical numbers.
Check it out if you're curious. Look at it with a grain of salt. It's
A huge grain of salt.
it's not high art, but I'm not going to deny that the composer of the film, what was her name?
Patricia Cullen.
Patricia Cullen did a fantastic job with the composition of this.
And sadly, she will not be doing any work in the foreseeable future because she passed away in the mid-90s, shortly after some more television work for Nelvana.
Chances are, if you're an 80s kid, you've probably enjoyed her work at
Yes.
some point, because, you know, Care Bears, like they said, huge franchise of the time. She did a lot of work on that and some other 80s cartoons.
She was basically synonymous with the Care Bears musical identity.
Yeah, and there's sadly those kind of people usually don't get attention unless you're a big music nerd. Like I happen to be. I like, for example, tying it back into 80s franchises. I always sung the praises of My Little Pony Friendship as Magic's composer Daniel Ingram.
Yes.
Great musical numbers in that show. Even people who aren't fans of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic have said, yeah, the music in that show is
good.
really good.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is clearly a huge fan of Sondheim, but at least he admits it.
Yeah.
Seriously, listen to Ever After, and then listen to At the Gala. See if you can spot the similarities.
And that brings me to the point of why I ultimately give this movie the check it out seal of approval. And it's because as an audio-visual experience, I don't think you're gonna forget it when you see it.
No.
Because, not just because of the...
Very strong visuals.
Not just because of the visuals or the fact that they got all those big names for the music, but just that it set a tone of what could have been and what aesthetic I liked about this movie, because I do have this weakness for rock apocalypse sort of scenarios where the power of music is on par with, say, Jesus walking on water. Because I think that's part of the reason why I'm a lot more lenient on the huge flaws that this movie has. Because that aesthetic is one that I live to see. And if that's what you're looking for, I do say give this a watch. Go ahead and listen to the score of this.
Listen to the soundtrack.
The instrumentals, because Patricia Cullen also, I have to point out, did a good job of working leitmotifs into this.
Yeah.
Like, that one scene where Angel plays the keyboard
on the piano,
playing Send Love Through.
Yeah.
It's great. I'd go so far as to say that Cullen's work on this on an atmospheric level is flawless.
So when we put this up, because we always love inputs, we would love your comments and feedback on this episode, previous ones, and even more, we'd love to hear your suggestions for potential episodes, because hey, there might have been stuff we've already seen that had great scores, but like completely slipped our mind that we've seen. I have watched a lot of movies over the years, so
yes,
we all have.
Yeah,
all of us have. And something I was looking forward to from the beginning with this was the idea of cinematic exchange.
Yeah,
we're all gonna be experts and newbies,
of course. Yeah,
and even though this movie is a veritable mixed bag, I think one thing you can take away from it was learning about each other and about our tastes and about broadening our horizons. And if you'll let me toot my own horn for a sec, I kind of liked being the source of info this time around.
Yeah.
Like, it was fun being the guy who kind of was steering the ship, even if the ship hit an iceberg somewhere along the line.
I realized I was fated not to probably enjoy this too, because like, when you look at the kind of animated stuff I enjoy, like, my favorite animated director of all time is Satoshi Kon.
Yeah.
Who I honestly think is sort
fantastic director, fantastic filmmaker.
And
but
proof
completely
positive.
different from this.
Proof positive of how you do mature animation.
Yes.
And
I mean, Satoshi Kon's like thing was subtlety.
Yeah.
And me, meanwhile, not to say I don't enjoy subtle films, but again, I'm a ball of unsubtle schmaltz and aesthetic.
I mean, Yeah, I mean, I'm guilty of that too. Like I said, I want to show you guys I want to show Aaron Power Rangers, and I love Power Rangers.
Yeah.
I don't like the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie very much, but
Hint, hint.
you know, I mean, I kind of appreciate the fact that that film was a mess, but like the actors were exploiting the heck out of it, where they were like, "Hey, you know what we should do? We should go skydiving." And they're like, "Look, guys, we have a movie here to film. But what if that was part of the movie?" All right,
Yeah.
let's do it.
And now I think that sums up my love for this movie. It's like, yeah, it's kind of an excuse movie. It's a delivery system for
It's
a bunch
just,
of
but
music.
wouldn't it be cool if? And I can kind of appreciate that on certain levels.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah, and I want to at least thank you for not saying, "Hey, Rich, you're an idiot for liking this."
No, yeah, I'm never gonna say that. At least it's not. At least Mock's not Ivan Ooze.
Oh yeah, that's another thing this movie has. Like, at least Mock actually, come to think of it, Ivan Ooze is a bit smarter.
Actually, Ivan Ooze is a bit smarter than
A bit, but
because like
Mock's more memorable.
Ivan Ooze was able to take down Rita and Zed really easily.
Yeah.
Which honestly is actually probably kind of a bad point in that movie's favor. I will never understand why when you're making the film for an iconic franchise like that, you're like, you know what kids want to see? The iconic villains of this series not be involved with the actual film.
Rest in peace, Robert Axelrod.
Yeah.
You are an amazing Zed.
He was. I'm so sad that Robert Axelford is not with us anymore.
I thought it was Axelrod.
It's either Axelrod or Axelford. Point is,
Yes.
I'm really sad he's not with us. Thank God Barbara Goodson still is. She was iconic.
And she
Rita.
is an amazing voice actress.
So good.
Versatile in stuff like Fooly Cooly,
Mhm.
and I was like, that's Rita?
Yeah, you would never guess Naoto and Rita are the same,
person.
Yeah.
That's the power of voice acting.
Mhm.
Sadly not demonstrated here, except for
Yeah.
Don Franks. I think he did a good mock.
He did solid. He did.
Yeah.
solid.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he had a lot of fun in the booth.
Nothing will ever, and nothing in this movie is on the level of Barbara Goodson as Rita.
Well, because,
She
like,
was a goddamn legend.
Barbara Goodson threw herself into there.
Yeah, like, you wonder how she was able to go 100 all the time. I mean, just look at the opening. You know, after 10,000 years at last, I'm free! And she just was at that level.
She
all
can
the
do
time.
it on command, too. Look at her in conventions.
If I ever meet her
It's
at
like a light switch.
If I ever meet her at a convention, you better believe I'm having her do a Rita thing for me.
We gotta be there for that.
I know.
We do.
I love her so much.
Once, it's...
Safe
Safe
to
to
do
go
that.
outside.
Be responsible, people.
Yeah.
I think that's what we can end this episode with.
Be responsible. We are operating under the knowledge that we are in safe surroundings prior to
Yes.
recording of this.
Yes.
Of course. And we make sure we take the proper precautions when we record this podcast. Luckily for us, it's one of those things where we only expose ourselves to each other because we're already people who operate in high-risk environments without with taking precautions ahead of time.
Masks, gloves,
Mhm.
especially in my case because I gotta work around food.
Yeah, and I work at a doctor's office, so.
I gotta work around teenagers. Ugh.
All of them disease magnets in their own ways.
Yeah.
Wow, there were letters to that one.
Don't be... I guess what I'm saying is don't be a teenager if you can help it, people.
Well, that was a spike there.
I think that's a good note to end this episode on.
Yeah.
Is don't be a teenager.
Don't
if
be
you
an
can help
Omar.
it.
Just jump from the age
specifically.
of 12 to 20.
Yeah, if you can somehow skip that really crappy phase right there, just jump right over.
Tune in next time for Phantom of the Paradise.
Yes. Do you guys like the Muppets? Then you're gonna like this movie. And I know what you're saying, Dalton. Isn't it a horror movie? Well, you'll just have to see what I mean by that on the next episode.
Yes. This was Killer Score. I'm Richard Eckerts. thanking both of you for giving me the chance to platform this.
Yep.
Signing off.
Killer Score, episode 2.